The wind moved low through the pines that lined the parade ground, brushing the granite faces of the memorial with a dry rustle. No band. No speeches. Just the hush of November and the scrape of a wheelchair slowing to a stop. I sat alone beneath the third stone. Name etched in no glory, just initials, dates, and silence. My hands turned a single dog tag. The chain long since dulled, edges worn smooth by years of fingers and memory. Most of the letters were gone. Just one mark remained, stubborn in the metal, KR 7. She didn't speak much, not then and not after. Some thought she couldn't. Others thought she didn't care to. But I knew better. They said she was just a logistician, I murmur. My voice doesn't carry. Doesn't need to. The stone knows. But I remember her dragging Captain Dorsey on her back, through claymores and shrapnel. Bleeding the whole way. Shoulder blown open. Wouldn't stop. My thumbs rubbed the tag slow, like it might still give up some warmth. There's none. Years later, I saw her again. Head down. Hands raw from scrubbing floors in a supply bay where no one even learned her name. The sky above is a patient blue. Still. Empty of flyovers or flags. Just the sky, and me. They laughed, I whisper. I can still hear them, young voices in tight uniforms, spitting words they thought were clever. Better grab a broom, Grandma, one had said. But I'd seen her in the dark, under fire, her fingers still working a busted tourniquet while the rest of us panicked. I'd watched her pull Dorsey from under a downed bird, ribs cracked, blood everywhere, the perimeter breaking. I'd seen what most men never did. Heroes don't raise their voices, I say to no one. They just stay, until it's done. I lean back in the chair. My knees don't bend anymore. But I remember how she moved, silent, focused, like her body obeyed something deeper than command. She never called herself anything. Never wore the medals they tried to give her. But some names, real names, don't get printed. They're carved instead, into the people who came home because she didn't leave. KR 7. A logistician. Sure. She saved more lives than any man I ever knew. And no one clapped when she did.
The morning air inside the armory was dense with oil and the low stink of sweat, too warm for October. Recruits shifted uncomfortably in their fatigues, boots tapping nervously against the polished concrete. Ava knelt alone in the far corner, hunched over an M4 service rifle with the bolt jammed halfway open. Light from a cracked window caught the faint stitching on her shoulder, barely visible, the patch no one seemed to recognize. Per 7. The drill instructor's voice had cut through the room like a whip just moments earlier. Logistics, he scoffed. Better leave the weapons to soldiers. A recruit snickered behind her. She probably thinks a forward assist is a kitchen tool. Another chimed in. She should grab a broom, not a bolt. Laughter followed. Sharp. Too easy. Ava said nothing. She didn't flinch. Didn't even look up. Her fingers moved without hesitation, quiet and precise. Thumb on the release, index curled under the carrier. A twist, a nudge, a breath held. 8 seconds passed. The rifle snapped into place with a clean mechanical click. The noise cut the room in half. Silence fell. Ava stood slowly, wiped her hands on her trousers, and walked across the bay, her boots the only sound. She didn't look back. Behind her, the room watched without words. The drill instructor, still holding his pointer, paused mid-step. His eyes caught the patch. The faded stitching. Per 7. He didn't say anything. Neither did the others. Because something about the way she'd moved, the quiet certainty in her motion, had changed the air. No one knew what it meant. But they knew not to laugh again. At the far end of the room, a major who hadn't spoken all morning folded his arms and watched her leave. He didn't smile. Didn't nod. But his eyes followed her through the open door, as if trying to recall something from long ago. She disappeared into the sunlight. Just boots on cement. Quiet. Steady. And then the door swung closed behind her. They didn't ask questions when I signed in. Just handed me a cot number and a tool locker like I'd been there the whole time. No welcome. No introductions. I walked across the compound carrying my own gear. Rolled my duffel over gravel that bit like broken glass. The sun was high and mean. Oklahoma doesn't believe in shade. My boots left no sound. The barracks creaked when I opened the door. Dust floated in the light, too thick to breathe properly. Someone had written something crude on the whiteboard near the door. I didn't erase it. That first night, no one spoke to me. A few glanced up when I moved through the common area, but they didn't hold their stares. People only stare when they think you don't matter. It was fine. I'd done harder things without company. My tools were older than the floorboards. Each one still worked. Each one remembered. I cleaned them in silence, then started on the gear room. No one had asked me to. Didn't need to. The racks were out of order, field kits misplaced, bolts stripped and left unreplaced. I organized them by function, then by size, like a mechanic setting up for a fire mission. By the time the morning shift came in, the difference was obvious. No one said thank you. They just used what I fixed. The cafeteria was loud. Metal trays and steel stools. I took coffee with powdered creamer, stirred it 3 times, then let it sit. The soldiers across the table laughed under their breath. Looks like she's lost, one said. Another smirked. Bet she came from HR. I kept my eyes on the cup. Didn't blink. Didn't answer. But I heard them. I always heard them. Truth is, it didn't matter. Not yet. People talk when they don't understand. And I didn't need them to understand. Only needed them to leave me the hell alone. Still, every now and then, when I sat alone at the edge of the quad or stayed late adjusting calibrations, I caught glimpses. Not of who I was now. Of who I had been. Once, at the firing range, I spotted a young sergeant struggling with his sight picture. He was off by 2 inches on a clean 0. Wind shear accounted for another half. I could see it from 20 feet away. He kept re-aiming. Breathing wrong. I almost stepped in. Almost. But I stayed still. I wasn't ready. The pass was too close. And the name stitched on my chest wasn't mine. Not officially. The badge read Kindle. No rank. No distinction. The old name, the one that carried weight, was redacted. Per 7. It didn't exist on paper anymore. But I felt it every time I walked the length of the compound. I remembered the jungle. The smell of rusted iron and spent cartridges. The taste of mud and blood. I remember dragging a man twice my weight across a field thick with shrapnel while tracer fire lit up the trees. He didn't scream, he was unconscious. But the captain behind him was screaming. Dorsey. Cracked ribs, collapsed lung. We were out of range for evac. But I got them both to the ridge. Carried one. Dragged the other. I didn't think about pain then. Didn't think about how my own shoulder had gone numb. How the hole in my leg was bleeding through the bandage. Just kept going. Kept doing what needed doing. I still do. Every morning I lace my boots the same way. Tight, even quiet. Every evening I polish my tools. Not for show. For control. Precision. People think logistics means you're behind a desk. Let them. We're the ones who make sure everything works when the rest of them are too scared to move. I stayed silent not because I had nothing to say, but because most wouldn't listen. And the ones who would, they already knew. The worst part isn't the jokes. It's the silence after. The way a room holds its breath waiting to see if you'll break. I didn't. That morning in the workshop, I was recalibrating a busted Schmidt scope. Someone had dropped it on concrete, chipped the housing, cracked the lens tension ring. Easy to miss if you didn't know what to feel for. I rotated the optics, reset the alignment screws, adjusted the parallax manually. A corporal walked in halfway through. He was young, hair buzzed too close, always louder than the room needed. Watched me for 30 seconds before scoffing. She thinks she's prepping for Mars, he said. Should tell NASA they've got competition. Laughter from the doorway. 2 others standing with him. Their eyes didn't look at the scope. Just me. I kept working. Didn't raise my head. That scope's off by 3 degrees, I said, quiet. They went still. You'd hit your own team if you fired that in a crosswind. The corporal blinked. His hand rested on the table, not confident anymore. How would you even know that? He said. I didn't answer. Just closed the case and slid it across the table. He didn't touch it. Next day, someone posted a photo on the wall near the locker room. My back turned, bent over a crate. Someone had scribbled Janitor of the Month in Sharpie under it. They thought it was funny. No one laughed out loud. But the silence came again. That silence always tells the truth. I left it up. Didn't touch it. Didn't need to. That same afternoon during weapons inspection, I flagged a faulty selector switch on a training rifle. It was sticking, intermittent fire mode lock. Could cost someone their hand in a live scenario. I logged it. Marked it for pull. Next morning, I found my name missing from the rotation. Pulled from active maintenance. No explanation. No apology. Just a manila envelope on my bunk with a clipped note. File discrepancies under review. I opened it. Pages scanned and redacted. Wrong rank listed. Service dates misaligned. Previous deployments. None recorded. Just one line under prior designation. Tier 7. Classified NO inactive. They were stripping me. Piece by piece. Not officially. Just enough to unravel the truth in small, quiet ways. No access to the armory vaults. No requisition authority. No authorization for level 3 repairs. It wasn't punishment. It was erasure. Someone once told me mockery is the first warning. If they can laugh at you, they can pretend you don't matter. If they can pretend you don't matter, they can make it true. Later that week in the locker room, I changed late to avoid the rush. Steam clung to the walls like memory. A woman stepped in behind me. Younger. Wide shoulders. Loud voice. She froze when she saw the scar on my shoulder blade. The old one puckered, sunken, shaped like a split seam. She squinted. Nice touch, she said. What did you use? Eyeliner? Her laughter echoed through the tile. I didn't answer. Didn't move. She left before I did. Whistling. I stared into the mirror for a long time after she left. Touched the edge of the scar. Felt the way the tissue pulled under pressure. I got it in a jungle no one talks about anymore. We weren't supposed to be there. It wasn't on the map. But we went anyway. Evac down. 6 men pinned in a draw. No air support. 2 hours of suppressive fire. They told me I wouldn't make it in time. They were wrong. I got them out. Lost part of my hearing. Took 2 rounds in the left side. But they all came home. And for years that was enough. Now I was a joke. A ghost in someone else's unit. And still I woke up before dawn. Still checked every barrel alignment. Still regreased every buffer spring. Still patched optics in the dark when no one else volunteered. Because the job wasn't about them. Never was. It was about the men who wouldn't be standing if I hadn't done it right the first time. They called me Tier 7 once. Now they called me nothing. But I remembered what mattered. I remembered what it meant to be the last quiet voice in a room full of noise. The wind came up fast that morning. Dust curled off the ridgelines like smoke, dry and sharp, clinging to every surface. It got into the bolts, the magazines, the sight lines. They ran a live fire simulation anyway. Standard exercise. 4-person teams cycling through target arrays across uneven terrain. Simulated village perimeter. Staggered silhouettes. Audio stress loops over the comms. I wasn't on the roster. Wasn't assigned anywhere. But I came anyway. Stood behind the cordon line, vest zipped, gloves on. The sky was a bruised yellow. You could taste grit in the air. I saw the failure before they did. Team Bravo was already mid-range when I noticed the optic drift. Their lead shooter, a private, lean and twitchy, couldn't hold a group past the 3rd target. Too much variance. I watched him miss right twice. His partner signaled for recheck. Then the optic blacked out. Wind shear must have cracked the internal prism. It had been riding loose for days. I flagged that unit last week. But I wasn't assigned anymore. So no one had fixed it. The officer on Overwatch, young, sharp cheekbones, clean boots, started barking commands. Reposition. Reposition. The private hesitated, squinting through the now useless glass. The target popped again. He missed. I stepped forward. Didn't ask. Didn't announce. Just crossed the line, moved to the edge of the shoot lane. The officer cut in, voice tight. This isn't a cleaning detail. Step back. I didn't answer. I stepped beside the shooter, took the rifle gently from his hands, pulled the scope, Set it down. Raised the iron sights by feel. Adjusted windage by memory. The sight picture snapped into place like an old memory finding its shape. I shouldered the rifle. 5 shots. 5 targets. Each one dropped with a clean ping. No hesitation. No flourish. I lowered the rifle. No one spoke. Even the officer didn't interrupt again. Behind me, boots crunched lightly over the gravel. Someone approached, stopped short. A quiet voice, low, uncertain. "That's Care 7 calibration." I turned. A junior intel officer, Lieutenant Barrow. I'd seen him in the comms trailer once. Never spoke. His eyes were on the patch at my shoulder. The wind caught the fabric, lifted it slightly. Care 7. Someone had stitched it back into place after they scrubbed my name. Didn't matter. Enough had seen it now. Barrow didn't say anything else. Didn't need to. He stepped back into the formation. The others watched him. No one laughed. No one sneered. Even the officer said nothing. Just adjusted his headset and turned away. The next team loaded in slow, cautious. The exercise resumed. But something had shifted. I walked off the range alone. My boots left clear tracks in the grit. At the far edge of the cordon, I passed a sergeant who didn't move aside fast enough. He glanced down at my patch. Eyes narrowed, lips parted, but no words came. He just stepped back. Like instinct had outrun training. After that day, no one asked me to do anything. But no one got in my way either. I started finding my name again on rosters. No one said why. No one apologized. Just quiet adjustments. Corrections. The mockery didn't stop all at once. But it slowed. And when it came, it was cautious. Like people weren't sure anymore. Like someone had whispered something. That night, I sat outside the barracks under the low metal eave. The wind had dropped. Just silence and starlight. My fingers traced the Care 7 patch. It had no unit. No rank. No citation. But people were starting to remember. And that was enough. 3 days later, the sound of rotor blades sliced through the Oklahoma heat. It was mid-drill. Units lined up along the field's edge, waiting for their next station. The chopper wasn't scheduled. Didn't match any local call sign. Everyone froze. The wind from its descent lifted sand and command papers into the air. I stood near the motor pool. Had a torque wrench in one hand. The other rested against the side panel of an idle Humvee. I didn't move. Didn't blink. When the skids hit the ground, boots hit after. One man stepped out. General Elias Hart. Head of Tactical Readiness Command. 4 stars. Full dress. Silence cracked open the compound like a fault line. He didn't look at anyone else. Didn't pause. Walked straight toward me across the lot. His aides tried to follow. He waved them off. Just the sound of his boots on hot concrete. I watched him come. Didn't salute. Not yet. He stopped 2 paces from me. Nodded once. "Captain Kendall," he said. The title hung there like a challenge. I nodded back. "Sir, you didn't need to take retraining the hard way," he said. His voice was calm, measured. "I know." "Then why?" he asked. My answer came slow. Quiet. Wanted to see if I still earned it. That was all. He looked at me a long moment. Then raised his hand. Saluted. Not a casual one. Not the kind given in ceremony. A real salute. The kind that acknowledges debt. I returned it slow and clean. Around us, the entire field had stopped moving. No shouted orders. No drills. Just the wind, the rotors, and 50 soldiers staring. The general turned to go. But he paused. Glanced over his shoulder. "You're cleared," he said. "No more red tape." He didn't wait for a reply. Just walked back to the chopper. As he lifted off, dust billowed through the lot. I turned away before the wind caught my eyes. Behind me, the whispers started. Short ones. Tight-lipped. A name passed between them, not spoken fully. Just fragments. Care 7. The next morning, someone posted a video. No sound. Just grainy greenish footage, old thermal cam. A figure dragging a wounded soldier across open terrain. Explosions in the distance. Blood soaked through one leg. The figure moved with a limp, shoulder dislocated. Still dragging. Still firing. Still moving. Classified footage. Restricted. No name listed. But the tag in the upper corner read, KR70428. The video didn't need words. Didn't need a medal. Said everything. After that, no one asked who I was anymore. They just stood aside when I passed. Not out of fear. Out of something else. Respect maybe. Or memory. And sometimes memory's enough. They didn't apologize. None of them. That would have taken more courage than most of them had. But one by one they faded. The corporal with the Mars joke? Reassigned. Arctic logistics. Night shifts. Half the equipment frozen shut before sunrise. He didn't speak on his way out. Just stared into his duffel like it might explain something. I passed him in the hallway. He stepped aside. Didn't look at me. Didn't need to. The one who mocked my scar. Who laughed loudest in the locker room. She was pulled from the tech rotation after her kit failed mid-exercise. The battery pack she'd signed off on had expired months ago. I'd flagged them. She'd ignored the warning. The board made her stand and explain it. Alone. I wasn't in the room. Didn't have to be. She didn't speak to me after that. Not even in passing. Just walked the long way around when I sat on the benches outside the range. Then there was the one who posted the photo. Janitor of the month. Quiet one. Always in the back. Thought he was clever. He deleted the file 2 days after the general's visit. Not just the photo. Everything. All his social media. His phone history. Even wiped the cloud backups. He started showing up early to morning formations. Never looked up. Never spoke. Some guilt you can't shake. And the drill instructor, the one who said leave the weapons to soldiers? He failed his next weapons inspection. Not a minor slip. A full audit. 3 miscalibrated M4S, 1 unfiled maintenance report, and a missing firing pin. I'd logged those defects 2 weeks before. No one had followed up. After the inspection, he was demoted. Quietly. No announcement. Just gone from the schedule. I didn't say a word. Didn't need to. That's the thing about silence. It doesn't demand proof. It leaves space for truth to echo on its own. I kept doing the work. Quiet. Constant. Started seeing tools organized the way I had arranged them. SOPs rewritten to reflect changes I'd recommended. Nobody asked. Nobody claimed credit. But the changes stuck. One night I walked past the supply shed and saw 2 privates aligning their optics. One turned to the other and said, "You need Cur7 calibration on that." The other nodded. Didn't laugh. Didn't even ask what it meant. Just adjusted and moved on. I kept walking. A week later I found a folded paper under my bunk. No name. Just a note. My dad told me a story once. About a woman who saved his CO with a jammed shoulder and a busted rifle. Thought it was made up. Guess not. Thank you. The handwriting was clean. Young. The name at the bottom of the paper meant nothing to me. Probably a private. Or a son. Didn't matter. I folded the note into my field manual. Page 27. Equipment failure protocols. Left it there. Sometimes legacy doesn't need a name. Sometimes the work is enough. And for those who tried to erase me, I didn't hate them, didn't want revenge. I just wanted them to remember what I did, who I was, what it cost, and what silence, when it endures long enough, can become. I packed alone. No ceremony, no speech, just the soft weight of tools returning to cases, labels peeled from drawers, and a cot that held shape from the weeks I slept without dreaming. The motor pool smelled like solvent and rust. The way places do when no one's watching anymore. I moved slow. Let the silence stretch. Outside, fog hung over the compound. Thick. Pale. It swallowed the lights, muffled every step. I liked it that way. When I reached the gate, a young private stepped from the shadows. She was barely 20. Boots too clean. Eyes too wide. "Ma'am," she said, not quite steady. "I heard. I saw what you did." I waited. She straightened. Her voice came clearer. "I want to be like you." I looked at her for a long moment, took in her stance, her hands, the way she tried to hold still even when she was scared. I could have said something easy. Instead, I said what mattered. "Don't," I told her. She blinked. "Be better." And then I turned, walked into the fog, didn't look back. The patch on my shoulder, Cur7, faded into the mist like smoke from an old war. like something you remember long after you think you've forgotten. Back at the Granite Memorial in Georgia, Red Mallory shifts in his chair. The dog tag is still in his hands. His eyes are wet, not from tears, from time. "I never saw her again," he says softly. The wind picks up, carries the words away. "But every time someone asks if I was there that day, I nod, not because I'm a hero." He pauses, looks down at the tag. "But because one day a hero didn't let me die." His voice falls to a whisper. "Her name was Ava Kendall." He closes his eyes. "If you ever see someone silent, overlooked," he lays the tag on the stone. "Remember them." Then he sits back, listening to the wind, and the silence that holds her name, her 7.